Clown is often seen as the worst killer in the game, right next to Legion, and that's because his ability doesn't seem all that great, and his kit in general is not that good. However, today I'm starting a guide series on Clown. Clown is my main in this game. He has become probably my favorite character to play in general. Now, could that be me being contrarian? Maybe. I don't know. But I hope that this guide can help anyone who wants to try Clown to try him out more and better, more unique ways. It's not as simple as just throwing your bottles and hoping. While it can be that, there are many other ways to play Clown. This video, or this guide series, will be split up into a few parts. Today it's just going to be the add-ons, just a quick overview of the add-ons. Next time it will be some of the builds, and after that it will be some of the basic playstyles and tricks you can do with Clown in general. I hope you enjoy it. I know I'm probably not the most seasoned person to be going over this, but I have played over 200 games of Clown in the very short time I have started playing DBD. And another thing about Clown I would like to mention is that playing Clown will make you better at Killer in general. Since he doesn't have any mobility or any basic tricks that a lot of the other killers have, you basically have to rely on just M1ing for the most part. This can be very helpful with mind games and whatnot, and a couple of his add-ons will help you learn mind games and what survivors will do in most situations. Thanks for watching, and I hope you can make it to the end of this entire series. So to start off, the Clown, or Kenneth Chase, or Jeffrey Hawk, or whatever his name happens to be. We're just going to go over what his ability is, and his basic attributes and all that. For his teachables, Bamboozle, which is faster vaulting speed, and it blocks the window when you vault over it. It's pretty decent. Claustrophobia, or Fear of Clowns, whichever you want to call it. Anyone in your terror radius gets a 30%. This goes up to 50% reduced healing progress speed. It's not that good. Most killers, you know, most survivors, if you're in their terror radius, or they're in your terror radius, they're not going to heal anyway, so it's not that great. Can be useful for anti-heal builds, or a killer that has an extremely large terror radius. And then Pop Goes the Weasel, probably the one people know the most. 25% gen regression for 45 seconds at max rank. This alone makes Clown worth leveling up, is just for this perk. For his attributes, he's a basic 115% killer, moves at normal speed, has a 32-meter terror radius, so pretty basic, and then he's tall. Most loops, it's not really going to make much of a difference, but it can. It's not really the important bit. For his ability, we got the Atrophy's Tonic, or the bottles, whichever you want to call them. You can swap the bottles. You have two of them. You have the Tonic and the Antidote. Tonic is purple, unless you're running a specific add-on, and when the bottle is thrown down, it will immediately explode and cause the gas to spew. Any survivors stuck in the gas will become intoxicated, which will impair their vision and reduce their movement speed, and will cause them to cough for 2 seconds. Now, during those 2 seconds, they can only slow vault. Now, the impaired movement speed actually lasts for 2.5 seconds with a few add-ons that will increase this. But once again, there is nothing to affect that 2-second penalty of only them being able to slow vault, which can get you some really, really good grabs sometimes. Another thing with the bottles, if you hit a survivor directly, it will interrupt them. If they're doing a hook or a gen or something like that, you can throw the bottle directly at them and stop them from doing it momentarily. It will also cause them to scream, which if you're doing an archive or something with scream, Clown is probably the best for it, him and Doctor. The other bottle, when you switch to it, is the yellow bottle, which is the Antidote. The Antidote has a few things it does. One, when you throw it, it will not become the gas immediately. It's about 1.5 seconds before it will actually become the yellow gas. Once it does, anyone who steps through it, that includes the survivors, will get a 10% movement speed buff for 5 seconds at base. Of course, this can go up with a few add-ons. 5 seconds at base for 10% increased movement speed. It will also remove any of the effects from the tonic, which means if you stack them on top of each other, the tonic will not be doing anything for you. Now, that being said, if both you and the survivor both go through it, it will still give you the 10% bonus speed. You're still moving faster than them. Even if only they go through it and you don't, you're still moving 5% faster than them. So it's still not the worst thing in the world. Some things you can do with the bottles other than interrupting actions. We'll go over this in the basic gameplay thing, but corralling is a huge thing you can do with Clown. You can throw the bottles in specific locations to make them go in another direction. It can make most loops basically impossible for the survivors unless they pre-drop the pallet, and even then, some of the loops you can chuck an antidote on one side and a tonic on the other and play around it, making them slower and you faster. In general, the bottles just help you with the chase. Now, looking at these abilities, it does show Clown's clear weaknesses. 1, pre-drop pallets are a huge thing, and 2, he has basically no map pressure. You cannot chuck these things across an entire map. There are some cheeky things you can do. You can throw them at trees and make the gas dissipate in a larger area. It will make some holes they can go through, but in general, it'll make it much bigger. If you hit them directly with the yellow, it will cause the gas cloud to almost immediately come out. It's about a half-second delay, but it's much faster than just chucking it at the grounds. The big thing with these is just learning the arcs, which is just something you're going to learn with time. I can't just tell you, hey, aim it here, aim it there. The only exception to that would be the antidote. If you are looking straight ahead, you look slightly up and then toss the bottle, by the time you start walking, you will make it into the invigoration effect right at the edge of the cloud, which can be used for reloading and just basically getting from loop to loop. That's the other thing with the antidote. You don't want to use it for map traversal for the most part. You want to use it to help in chase. You can also use it to just get to smaller sections of the map, maybe from one gen to another, but not from one side of the map to the other. It's just not worth the time investment because eventually you will have to reload. A lot of times you don't want to waste more than 2 to 3 bottles per chase. Sometimes you will have to waste 4, but 2 to 3 bottles is usually the go-to. Clown's add-ons are all decent enough. The one you probably know the most of is Pinky Finger. Pinky Finger makes it so that when you hit a survivor directly with a bottle, which you can do if you get very close, very easily, it will expose them, and your next hit will do an instant down. I think this add-on is extremely overrated, and most people will tell you it is the only thing that makes Clown good at higher levels, which it can be, and if you can learn to play around it or with it, it can be really well. However, it being an Eerie means that it can be difficult to get and stockpile, and it's not always reliable. And if the survivors know exactly what they're doing, it won't always work. The next Eerie is the Tattooed Middle Finger. Tattooed Middle Finger, when you invigorate or intoxicate a survivor, they're revealed to you for 6 seconds. This can make mind games almost impossible, and if you can just get them at the edge when they vault a window or whatnot, you'll know exactly where they're going. Now, the thing about Tattooed Middle Finger is another add-on coming up, the Cigar Box, basically is this but better, and I will explain why in just a minute. Next is the Cheap Gin Bottle. This gives you 2 extra bottles, increases your max to 2, which means you can get 6. If you combine this with another one, you can have a max of 7, which can be great for just spamming your bottles. It means you have to reload less. It means that if you were not hitting your shots perfectly, which you will do, a lot of times it's not always easy to know exactly where it's going to land. I do recommend the Cheap Gin Bottle with the Pinky Finger, as having more shots and more chances to hit the target can make it so you eventually do hit the target. Next is what I would argue is his best add-on, the Cigar Box. When anyone is invigorated, this includes the survivors, they will see all auras within a 16-meter radius. Now, a lot of people will say this add-on isn't good, or it can be countered because the survivor also gets the aura seeing effect that they go through the invigoration. However, a lot of times the way I use this, and most clowns will use this, is they will throw it at their feet when they're at a loop or when they're looking for somebody. and the survivors won't get the effect. Now, the aura effect only lasts while you're invigorated, which means that this is greatly combined with either increasing the invigoration effect with the Garnished Makeup Kit by 2 seconds, or increasing the range of the invigoration so you can spread it around more. At 16 meters is from your position, not where the invigoration is. So if you go to the outside of the invigoration and still get it for 8 seconds with the Garnished Makeup Kit, instead of the normal 6, you get 8 seconds of constant aura reading. Cigar Box is so good in so many situations, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it on Clown. Next is the Ether 15 volume the 15 volume percent. It increases the intoxication effect by 1 second. The intoxication effect slows them down by 12%. And technically this is a lie by increasing it for 1 second. It does increase it by 1 second. However, the invigoration effect doesn't start going, or the intoxication effect, hang on a second. Yeah, the intoxication effect doesn't go away until they leave the cloud. So if you hit them directly with a bottle and it pops, technically they don't start losing the intoxication effect, which is 2 seconds, or 2.5 seconds of 12% slowdown. So with this, it would be 3.5 seconds. An important thing to note is that they can still medium vault and fast vault after 2 seconds. This does not increase that at all. So even if you hit somebody and they've been running for 3 seconds and they go to do a medium vault, the 2 seconds has elapsed to force them to do a slow vault. The Garnished Makeup Kit, once again combined with the Cigar Box, and just in general, it can be great for some map traversal. I know most people will say don't use the invigorated bottles for map traversal. I don't think using it to go from one side of the map to the other is a good idea. However, to get from one loop to another, I think is perfectly fine. And the 2 extra seconds of the 10% movement speed can get you some hits sometimes. Not only can it get you some hits, it can also, once again, combine with Cigar Box and get you a lot of aura reading for quite a long time that the survivors probably won't expect. The other great thing about the Cigar Box and the Garnished Makeup Kit, unless they are really paying attention, they're not even going to know you have it. The Garnished Makeup Kit, like I said, will increase it by 2 seconds, which if they are looking at you for an extra 2 seconds, they might notice that you're going slightly faster. But with a Cigar Box, there is almost no way for them to know you have this add-on at all. That's another reason why it's so good. And there's nothing they can really do to play around it. Because what are they going to do? Mind game you? They can't. Their aura is being shown. You see them the entire time. The chloroform bottle increases the size and spread of the Atropine tonic by 20%. Now, the 20% isn't that massive. If you are running this, I would highly recommend only running it if you are still learning Clown's bottle placements and you're not very good. It does have some uses outside of that. If you do the tree trick by throwing it at a tree or in the roof of a building, it can make it so there's less clouds that aren't directly, or less paths for them to run through that aren't clouded. But in general, I do think it's not that good. Like I said, it has its niche uses, and on some builds, one cool thing if you're out of cigar boxes or whatnot, or don't want to run Cigar Box, you can run the Tattoo Middle Finger, and this will almost guarantee you always get the aura reading for at least 6 seconds. So that's good. The Bleach increases the hindered status effects by an additional 5%. So the hindered status effect is 12.5% slowdown. This increases it to 17.5%. Now, if you only have one bottle left, and that one bottle is used to hit them with the purple gas, intoxicate them, and they run away, this can land you some cheeky hits. However, once again, it does not make them slow vault past the 2-second mark. Now, in combination with the ether, it can be really, really good, because that's an extra second of them moving at 17% slower speed. Which, if you're also invigorated at the time, can make you move ludicrously fast. In general, though, unless you're running a really cheeky chase down build, I would not recommend it. The Smiley Inner Souls. So, there is another add-on that does this too. It increases your movement speed while reloading. Do not run this add-on. There's a few reasons why. There is a trick you can do, throwing down the invigorated bottle while you're reloading or while you're about to reload to increase your movement speed anyways. So this does that basically for free and a little, not too much better, but it will increase your movement speed. The thing is though, 66%, if you do the math, you're better off just running the reload speed add-on because you're not moving as slow. The way the math works out, you're not moving slowly as long. Now, if you use it in combination with the other one, it might be good, it might not be good. I do not recommend this add-on at all. Or the other one that causes the increased movement speed. Even combining them, it's just not worth it. The Spirit. So that increases the size of the antidote. So this is the intoxication ring. Now, like I said with the cigar box, you can intoxicate invigorate yourself and get the aura reading. While increasing the duration is nice, this does technically mean you had the aura reading for a longer distance if you hang around the cloud for a couple seconds. Now, I still wouldn't recommend this. I think the duration is much more practical, convenient, and easier to use. But that's just me. But this can also mean at certain loops, you could throw the bottle down and basically have the invigorated effect for longer. But once again, the duration is just more reliable. The acid vial. If you hit them with a purple bottle of gas, they get mangled. Not the worst thing in the world. However, just run sloppy. If they're mangled and healthy, it does basically nothing. But just run Sloppy Butcher if you really want mangled. It's not the worst thing in the world. If it's all you got, it's all you got. But I wouldn't. Intoxication inflicts blindness. So blindness is a very underrated status effect in my opinion. It can come in clutch sometimes and be very annoying. However, the fact that this only applies it for 30 seconds, and you just hit them with a bottle, which means they're probably in chase, it's just not good. It's not good. Never has been, never will be. I just wouldn't recommend it unless you're running like a full blind build. Solvent Jug increases the invigoration effect by a second. Once again, it's just a worse version of the Garnish Kit, but not by too much. One more second of invigoration, especially with the cigar box, which I'm going to keep coming back to the cigar box just because it's just that good. Can be very, very, very helpful. Once again, the aura reading, plus that's one more second of you moving 10% faster, which isn't the worst thing in the world. If you don't have the Garnish Makeup Kit, this is a great backup. Feather. The feather would decrease your cooldown of the throws by 50%. So if you're constantly spamming bottles, this can be amazing. But a lot of times you want to be a little bit more precise with your bottles. So you don't have to be completely precise, obviously, but you want to not be constantly throwing them. Now that being said, the pinky finger. You can bring the cheap gen bottle to get 2 extra bottles, which means you get 2 extra chances before reloading to hit them directly. Or you can bring the feather, and this will make them question how fast you are actually throwing and when they need to dodge. If you were chucking them out fast enough, they're not going to be able to dodge and thus get the exposed status effect. Soda bottle, it's just a worse gin bottle. Now, 1 extra bottle, once again, if it's all you got. Now, you can also combine both of them into one build and be really, really bottle heavy and reload less. But the next add-on coming up is probably just a little bit more convenient if you have the choice between these two. And that's the cork. Now, it decreases your reload speed by half a second, which doesn't seem like much. However, if you combine it with the fact that you can throw down an intoxication bottle and run right through it and get the movement speed buff through that, it's not the worst thing in the world. Your reload speed is 3 seconds at base, so with this it goes down to 2.5 seconds. And with the invigorated effect, you basically lose no time walking because of the 10% increase. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I usually run this quite a lot. I think it's just a really good feel good. If you're learning Clown, it's also very good to help with your mistakes. Fingerless gloves. Don't run these. Do not run the fingerless gloves. So the fingerless gloves change the bottle arc by 15 degrees. I almost said percent. By 15 degrees. So the problem with this is it basically makes it so they don't arc as much and they go slightly straighter, which you can learn to play around, or you could just not run them and learn how to use his bottles normally. A lot of times you don't even want direct hits unless you're using the pinky finger, and even then you usually want to be right up on them so you don't even need the preciseness of the bottles to hit them. The fingerless gloves just aren't good. If you want to challenge, maybe. If you want to fuck with your muscle memory, maybe, but in general they're just not good. The bottle throw speed by 25%. Once again, like I said with the feather, not the best thing in the world, not the worst thing in the world, but I would avoid the fingerless gloves at all costs. Party bottle. Party bottle is a meme add-on. You throw a bottle and a direct hit will cause confetti to shoot out of the air. That's really all it does. It does give you some extra blood points. You notice it's extra, not bonus, so you can't get more than the cap. It's fun. It's just fun. That's about it. Fun fact, though, with it, the direct hits only apply to the purple bottles. The yellow bottles will do it regardless. You can throw them at the ground and they'll still do the yay confetti. Robin Feather, much like the other feather, decreases the bottle throw cooldown. If you combine the two, you can be throwing them like a fucking machine gun. However, most times you don't want to be doing that. I wouldn't recommend it. And the last is the VHS porn, which switches the colors of the bottles. It makes a slow down yellow and a speed up purple. Now, I could argue this can be used to mind game and fuck with survival, or mess with survivor muscle memory. However, the issue is that a lot of times it really doesn't matter. If you throw a bottle, even if it's the yellow, they still won't go through it, even if it is the invigorated effect. So it really doesn't do too much. It can be nice to use sometimes and just see how people react to it. It can get some cheeky hits in the beginning, but most times people will learn to play around it and it's not that reliable. For some add-on combinations, the one I use the most is the cigar box and the garnish makeup kit. The invigorated status effect lets you see auras, and this just gives it to you for longer. You can run the pinky finger and the gin bottle. That'll give you 2 extra hits. You can also run the pinky finger and the hindered penalty. So with this, with the bleach and the pinky finger, you basically throw a purple bottle at their feet, and while they're slowed down, they're an easier target to hit with a direct bottle with the pinky finger. That's the mentality here. You could also run it with the feather. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. And it means you can just throw the bottles faster. You can run the tattooed middle finger and the pinky finger together. This can get you some cheeky pre-fire hits around corners. Of course, you could just run the cigar box and do the same thing. You can run the increased size on both the invigorated and the intoxicated. This will just give you a little bit more presence on some loops. It's really about all. And that's really a lot of it. The reload speed one is never a bad one to throw on. If I don't have any garnish makeup kits, I usually run the cigar box with the cork stopper. And if I don't have any purples or whatnot, I'll usually run the hindered effect going up longer and the reload speed. Maybe an extra bottle here and there. It really just depends on what build you're running as far as add-ons go, which we'll be going over in another video. But that's really what it comes down to. But yeah, look, Clown's got some pretty decent add-ons. I will say his pinky finger add-on and his tattooed middle finger add-on, I think they're really, not the middle finger so much, but the pinky finger is really overrated. This will get you some cheeky kills. It will. However, once the survivors know, they will start playing around it, and that can be very annoying. The cigar box, though, they'll never know. There's almost no way for them to know you have this add-on. And I'll be, during the gameplay sections, I will be showing you really, really good ways to use this on certain palettes, and even Shack. You can make Shack almost impossible. But that's been it for the add-on section of this video. Like I said, this is going to be split up into a few parts. This is part 1. I figured the add-ons were the best place to start with this, because they're just the most universal and the thing everyone can get regardless of the other killers they own. Yeah,